This moment is the heartbeat of reality, this unfolding of self-knowledge. Every experience is like a heartbeat. Every experience is embraced by the heart. You're getting to know yourself this way, as that which is beyond description, beyond measure, beyond any kind of quantification. There is no wrong experience. The experiences that are unfolding are the experiences that are right for this moment. But suffering comes from limitation, fixating on any given experience and believing that you are only that, or believing that certain things are external, outside of you. Fear comes from externalization. There's no out there. Everything is within you, within your true body, within experiencing. So you're always experimenting, always experiencing, always tasting, recognizing yourself. And spirituality is only about recognizing the obvious. What helps is to come to the non-interpretive sensation of an experience. Energy. Energy is intelligence. You can trust the intelligence. Everything is welcome because everything is here. So the disillusion of fear, and so the revelation of love, comes from recognizing there is no external and no internal. So you delve into the deeper intelligence of what's present beyond interpretation, and you taste that one taste, the one flavor of life. And that's what you are. If we align consciously with the actuality of the moment, we see that, yeah, this is what's here. There's no resistance because it's what's here. This is right because it's what's here. Experience is the presentation of reality, and experiencing is the exploration of reality. You are presenting yourself to yourself. You are engaged always in the process of self-knowledge, self-realization. This intelligence that you can always trust is built into everything because it is everything. Everything is that. That is what everything is made of. It can present as exactly what you're experiencing right now. All of these sights, these sounds, these smells, these tastes and thoughts. From that place, the idea of trying to accept what is becomes redundant because it's already happening. So this is a kind of a radical yes. And when we tune into it, we experience a deeper quality of okayness, of equanimity, of contentment.
What you want is actually what's here. And I know that's difficult to believe, but it has to be true on some level because it's what's here. It can't be other. It's actually what's here. It's what's actual. What the mind wants isn't what's actual. It's like a fantasy, some small version, this pseudo version of reality, this made up thing that it thinks it wants based on its limited information and what it's learnt about life and others and what it thinks a human being should want. But the actual want is what's here now, whatever that is. And that's like, this is like a really difficult thing to accept for the mind, because that's whatever is appearing in whatever way it's appearing, without changing even one thing in the slightest sense, which flies in the face of what how human beings tend to think, doesn't it? You go, well, I don't want this pain. I don't want this pain. But that's from a human being point of view. That's from a little mind's point of view. That's from, a very limited point of view. But if you take yourself to know yourself as the whole of reality, as the self or God, it's going to have a slightly different perspective on that, isn't it? It's not going to see pain or difficulty through the same lens that your little mind is viewing it for you. It's going to see it as divine, amazing qualities that it wants to experience. It wants to know itself in every possible way. And the difficulty I think we have is when we actually try to resist that in some way. We kind of try to go against that. It's the very wanting to change it that seems to cause a lot of the persistence of it. We try and stop that happening and try and make reality fit into some some kind of small self, some mind version of what reality is.
You're listening to the Non-Duality Podcast. This is Nick Hyam from thewholenessofexperience.com, and here with me is Paul Dobson. We have a tendency to misinterpret reality, and that misinterpretation seems to block the truth of reality, and therefore we don't get to enjoy the gifts of reality. We're so used to pursuing pleasure and avoiding pain. We're so used to grasping for what we feel will complete us, fulfill us, and avoiding anything that we feel would destroy us. And so that's our job as people. We're caught between these two forces, seemingly, and we identify with those forces. And so we're always in this pursuit of pleasure and avoidance of pain. And that in itself, that pursuit is a painful search. Even when we experience moments of pleasure, we're often not really present. We're not really savouring the moments. We're elsewhere in our minds. We're thinking about losing this moment or something that kind of takes us away from really being there, really enjoying it. So we don't really enjoy pleasure. In A Course in Miracles, it's said, all healing is essentially the release from fear. Every choice you make is either an expression of love or an expression of fear. There is no other choice. Everything you're experiencing now is the divine, and that's you. You are the divine. This is the unraveling, the unfoldment of self-knowledge, of self-realization. Self-realization is happening through self-knowledge, and the choices you make are expressions of the divine. So the word choose originally meant to seek out, to test, to taste, to try. And interestingly, that is what experience means. Experience means to experiment, to try, to test out. So your experiences are your choices. Your choices are your experiences. You are exploring your potential through experience, through choice. I'm not talking about the choice of some individual, of the ego. I'm talking about the choice of what you are. You are choosing as the divine, as reality. You're always experimenting, you're always trying out, testing out, you're always tasting different flavors. And this isn't about trying to get to a point of only choosing love, because ultimately, even fear is an expression of love. You know, you love yourself so much that you're willing to sacrifice yourself. It's the ultimate sacrifice. When you are finite, you are fearful. When you are contained, you are fearful. Ironically, we believe security comes from containment, from limitation. When we are separate, we lack. And when we lack, we seek, and we try to defend ourselves because we're averse to that which would destroy us. We lock doors, we build walls, and that's where our safety comes from, apparently. But our main desire is freedom. And walls and locks and doors and barriers, containment, isn't freedom. Now, true safety is freedom. The freedom to be at home in your own skin. I don't mean the body, because that's containment. That's pseudo safety. That's more like security than safety. But we also desire freedom. That's our main desire, freedom. Freedom from control, freedom from feeling hampered and stuck. But your true body is the entirety of your experience. The entirety of your experience. And by that I mean this unbounded space of experiencing, of consciousness. And it holds what you call your body. It holds the entire universe, your experience. Not just this room, not just these objects, not just this body, but life in its fullness is embraced by experiencing. To recognize this as freedom, it's true freedom. To reconcile with your true body, the entirety of what you are, is to be released from fear and to permit yourself, as you already do, but consciously permit yourself to experience. You are experiencing. These different experiences are unfolding, or unraveling within your true body, within home. There is no wrong choice because there is no wrong experience. The experiences that are unfolding are the experiences that are right for this moment. So we're not saying be with what is and try to accept, because trying to accept comes from the position of resistance. Why would you try to accept? Because you subtly resist. And resistance is a no, isn't it? This experience should not be happening. The truth is, it is happening. It is happening. So you could say then it's deeply accepted, not by you, the apparent person, but what you truly are. It's already here. It's already allowed in. What's happening now is your very experience is the path of love. This is the heart of reality. Every experience is like a heartbeat. This built-in acceptance and the built-in actuality of what's here, what's already contained within this here-ness, is not something that requires effort or acceptance as an individual. It's just simply the way it is. Everything about the moment, no matter how we may interpret it, is already completely welcomed and accepted just as it is.
Absolutely. The thing about this is, as egos, we are, if we identify with egos, we are then the thing that is actually attempting to reject experience. The whole structure of the ego is, it has an idea of how things should be, and unless things fall within that idea, it's wrong. It needs to be rejected. That's its whole life, is like rejecting anything that doesn't fall into line with its idea of how things should be. And so there's no way it can accept what's happening now if it's any form of difficulty or pain or struggle or anything like that. It just can't. The mind kind of wants this little nursery rhyme, cartoonish nursery rhyme, to be playing at all times. This simple, happy tune, imagining you're accepting or rejecting. It's like a child steering the car with their toy steering wheel. It's like, oh, I'm steering, It's not doing anything. Actually, it's all accepted. Even your rejection is accepted. The rejecting is also another form of the accepting, as crazy as that sounds. There's no opposite to rejection, to acceptance. There's no opposite to acceptance, which is, it's like, how is that possible? Well, it's actually not possible from a mind's perspective, from an egoic perspective. It's not possible because it's the very wanting to change it that seems to cause a lot of the persistence of it. If we are honest about what's here right now, and that there is some resistance, and that's okay. I feel like there's resistance. I don't feel like there's acceptance. If you're honest about that, because you hear these words, you hear, oh, there's unconditional acceptance here, and you're not feeling it. You feel like that's absolutely not the case. Just be honest about that. And then that actually loosens up the energy there. It's a doorway into the acceptance. When you're being totally, totally honest, that starts to untangle the knots that you've created around it. It starts to free it up. Anything that needs reconciling or solving can be solved from that place in a natural and the most efficient way possible. Problems are solved as they arise, in a way. They're just solved naturally and spontaneously. Because you're just being totally honest, exactly where you are. You can only ever be exactly where you are with exactly how you feel. And you're not trying to change anything. You're going, here's pain, I hate it. I'm kind of enjoying hating it because it gives me maybe this sense of victim mentality, the self-righteousness, whatever it might be, and I get to enjoy all of that. Like, I'm kind of there's part of me that's kind of enjoying the richness of that. And then your foot's in the door and going, well, what actually is it? Like, everything's loosened up now. I can look at this. I've been totally honest. It's the unconditional acceptance of everything. This is only a way of looking at it until you've untied that knot which allows you to look at it with the unconditional acceptance. Really, it's a strategy of sorts of taking it step by step, but actually, regardless of your strategy, it's always there, being unconditionally accepted, because reality doesn't see the divide between pleasure, pain, doesn't see good or bad. It just doesn't see rejection and acceptance or resistance. It just sees it all as perfect. That's the only view reality has. It's like there's no distorted perception. It's just everything that arises is perfect and absolutely appropriate, exactly how it is. But within my own experience, that's a huge thing. There's been a lot of beating myself up in the past about not accepting experience how it is. Like hearing non-duality teachers talk about, this is unconditional acceptance, and that's beautiful, and it's a fact. And them going, well, I'm not feeling that. Maybe I can try to accept this or something. But the acceptance goes all the way down. It flows down through all of the layers. So can you just look and see, can I accept the fact that I don't accept this in any way at all and that I hate it? And then you're kind of like, that's like the tension is just loosened just a touch. You may be starting to pull on the thread of the string, just like pulling that bit of string a little bit, and the knots are kind of starting to weaken. And then you start looking at it a bit deeper and go, okay, so I hate this. Okay. Is it okay that I hate it? Yes. Okay, the knot is a little bit weaker. Does part of me enjoy that I hate it? Does part of me enjoy feeling like the victim? Does part of me enjoy playing that game? Yes. That in some level, if you're really, really honest with yourself, no one else is around judging you. If you're really honest with yourself, brutally honest, part of you kind of is enjoying that. Even if you would outwardly say you don't enjoy it, part of you is kind of enjoying feeling that way, feeling helpless, feeling like a victim. It's like the actor like really enjoying the character it's playing. It's like, wow, I really get to be this character that's victimized by this. And it's like, okay, part of me is enjoying that. Then the thread is pulled a little bit more. Then you go, what is it all made of? Like, can I feel into it? I can start feeling into it now. It's all loosened. It's not got the straight up rejection anymore. It's like, it's been honest. I've been honest. It's loosened up now. I can start to look at it. I can start to explore the texture of it, the aliveness there. I can start to look at it in the ways we usually talk about. And if you take it far enough, all you'll find is sparkling, alive, vibrant energy that's just been masked. So when you start looking into this, you can start looking into your whatever experience is occurring now. Because it's here, first of all, is to recognize that because it's here, you want it on some level. Like, that's the first thing to notice. Like, not ignore what the mind is saying. The mind will reject this outright. It will absolutely reject it, because in a way, the mind is like the resistance of this. It can never actually resist this, but it kind of is the resistance of this fact. It thinks it should be other. And that's also part of the amazing fact, of course. But it's, I'll get to that another time. But it thinks this should be other. So it's, first of all, is to recognize that on some level you want this, whatever experience this is, on some level. Otherwise, it wouldn't be appearing. And it may be difficult to accept, but it just is. So what is here, and on some level you want it.
Yeah. Can you just be with what's here now? And if you can't be with what's here now, because that feels impossible, see that it is here now. It is here now. That's all. It is here now. Just recognize the isness of what's here now. You don't have to like it. You don't even have to embrace it. Recognize that it is embraced by your experiencing, by awareness, instantly, automatically, effortlessly. When you start to get online with that fact, you're unburdened because you don't have to hold it. You don't have to bear it. You recognize that experiencing is bearing it. But as you go into it, you don't find yourself separate from it. So you're not an individual having to bear anything. You are this infinite space or capacity of experiencing that includes everything that is unveiled, everything that is brought into being, everything that is brought forth into what you are. As you've been saying, delve into like the rawness of sensation, the non-intellectual, non-interpretive isness of what's here. Go to the source of experience. What's the source? What's the nature of experience? No matter what experience you're having, what is the actuality? What's the true substance of pain, of pleasure? You won't find pain or pleasure there when you go into it deeply. You won't find anything you can put into words, anything you can quantify or define. You will find aliveness, just an energetic outpouring of reality, disguised as what we call pain and pleasure, seemingly hidden. So it doesn't mean that you become detached and aloof and you don't sort of get to engage with life. Anything can happen, anything can transpire, but there is this background knowing, this quiet contentment or equanimity. It doesn't have to be pure bliss and ecstasy. It can be, but often it's just a simple, quiet okayness. On top of that, it seems like more in the foreground, there's just the normal stuff of life happening. But because you're rooted in the foundation of what you are, you don't get lost in the foreground. And actually, you know the foreground to be made of the background. This is one creative expression, isn't it? One creative force of life, just blossoming into being like a flower, flowing forcefully like a fountain, always. It's unstoppable. You can't do anything to stop this continuous flow of creativity. It never runs out. Its source is infinite. The word create means to bring into being. Bring into being. To bring forth, to produce, to procreate, to beget, to cause. And this is what's happening. This is creative expression of being, bringing into itself, yes, albeit illusory and transient, forms and expressions of itself, but those forms and expressions are nothing but itself, nothing but being. Consciousness creates, beingness brings into itself the gift of experience, seemingly to explore potential, just to experience, simply to experience. Let's see if we can verify that right now in a very simple way. Are you experiencing? Yes. Are you aware? Yes. You can reply to that question straight away. You don't have to go into, well, I think I'm aware. I think I'm experiencing. It's a rapid answer to a profound question. The question, the experiential and the existential question, to which we all know the answer immediately. I exist. I'm experiencing. I'm experiencing existence. That's also verifiable. And what I'm experiencing is existence, and existence is what I am because I exist. So create means to bring into being, to bring forth. One of the original meanings of the word bring is to bear, to convey, to produce, to present, to offer. So being is offering to itself, being, offering to itself itself. And then the word enjoy, en means into, and joy, the source of pleasure or happiness. The true source of pleasure, the true source of happiness, the true source of bliss, the true source of contentment.
Yeah. There's only one ingredient to all experience, and that is basically the only ingredient that exists, which is, as far as I can tell, divine ecstasy. It's got no other building blocks. It can only build with itself. And so if you start to feel into it subtly enough, you can start to feel the ecstasy within it. And that's the surprising thing. Like, something that is painful seems to be horrible and painful and seems the opposite of what you would want. If you feel more and more subtly into it, You can just feel this intensity, this aliveness, this electric vibrancy, this richness, without like saying it's bad or anything. You can just go into it, feel these qualities that are there. You know, I was telling you before we started recording that when I get into the ice bath each morning, it's freezing cold and it's pure pain. It's just pure pain. But then you start to feel into it and it's electric, it's tingly, it's zappy, it's vibrant, it's extremely alive, it's intense. And aren't those all the qualities of ecstasy, of bliss, of enjoyment, of euphoria? Where do you draw the line? Where's the divide? It's only a perspective. It's only some idea that it's not that. You start to feel into it, and you can find it. You can find the ecstasy there because it's already there. When you stop telling it what it is, when you stop telling it it's bad or wrong or just a horrible experience that should go away, when you stop telling it, if you're really just 100% direct and honest with the experience, you'll find there's a different quality to it. It requires an honesty. There's an honesty there to it as well, I think. An honesty with yourself that on some level you're enjoying this, whatever it is. That has to be the case on some level. You are enjoying this experience. As God, you are, you're not the being that human beings would dream up in their minds of some morality or something. You're much more complex and interesting than that. And you can tap into that when you start subtly getting into the layers of your direct experience of the difficulty and the sadness and the pain. There's something that's enjoying it there. And if you can tap into that, then all experience is now open. All experience, not just some of your experiences, not just what you've classified as the good stuff. All experience is now there for the enjoyment, for the appreciation, which is a very different view on life than cutting out some experiences and working your way towards other experiences in some way. And it's in line with truth.
Yeah. Well, the mind needs a project to exist, doesn't it? The mind is a project manager. It's a micromanager of imaginary problems. It wants to get its teeth into something that it can fix, that it can solve, that it can work out. And for whatever reason, we tend to focus on that movement of mind, and we seem to become that movement of mind. And we then experience all of the feelings that come with that fraught, volatile micromanagement that becomes our life, that becomes our lot. We bypass the bigger picture. We bypass the context in which the content arises. And does the content need fixing? Does any content need problem solving? No, not when you see it for what it is. When you discern the nature of any given content, you don't find content, you find context. If the foreground is only the background, and the background has no opposite, therefore there is no duality and there is no problem. When you have no reference points, everything is okay. You align with the truth of what is, and it's non-conceptual and it's non-problematic. This is from the Bible, 2 Corinthians 4:16. Even though on the outside it often looks like things are falling apart on us, on the inside, where God is making new life, not a day goes by without his unfolding grace. Yeah, this is grace. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but what is unseen. For what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. Even though on the outside it looks like things are problematic, within the content there's the life of God, there's the new freshness of being. And this is always the case. So if we fix our spiritual eyes, so to speak, on what is unseen by the physical, the apparently physical eyes, we find that beingness, we find the isness, the energy of God. For what is seen is temporary, transient. What is unseen is eternal. And the thing is, you can't not see it. You can't not see it. You can't not experience it, because the eternal is all there is. There is no transient, there is no temporary. There is no seen in the physical way, because anything that is physical is actually non-physical reality itself. It's the creative offering of being as all of these different expressions of phenomena. And that includes everything that seems to be occurring inside the body, mind, thoughts, emotions, sensations. This is all the same creative force, the creative offering, the creative flow of God. From that perspective, every experience is equal in its nature, in its vitality. There is no hierarchy. There is no duality. No content, no aspect, no form is better or worse, more spiritual or less spiritual. All experiences are just expressions of being, all equal in their being. Everything we experience is generated in real time by spirit. There's no concealing, there's only revealing. We fix our eyes on what is seen, and the canvas or the background, the screen is unseen, but we can't not see that which is unseen, paradoxically, but only in language. So we don't have to do anything to move towards this creative offering, this gift of God, of being. We just, like you've been saying, we can just relax and enjoy the ride, enjoy the creative expression that is always blossoming as this moment, always this moment, not even every moment, just this moment, because there is only this moment. There is no hierarchy. There is no good or bad, right or wrong. Everything is included. This is not about trying to accept anything, because what's here is already here. It's already manifesting within this infinite context of experiencing. It's already happening. You don't have to try to bring it in, nor do you need to push it away, because life's saying yes. Whether it's painful or pleasurable, life is saying yes to this. Life is creating this real time. It's already here. And this moment, this space of now, contains the idea of time. It contains the idea of grasping, aversion, pleasure, pain. All of that arises in this, and it's already been held unconditionally. None of that is something that you need to accept as a separate person within it or apart from it.
Yeah. As you were saying about the meaning of words, and you mentioned the Bible, there's actually one being. And God and Satan or the devil are really just the way God plays, the way Nirvana or Buddha plays in samsara, the way God plays it on earth. In a way, it's the way it plays. It's actually two sides of the same coin, and it's not one side's good or one side's bad. Without the splitting and the resistance and the seeming division, you've got no game. You've just got oneness sitting, doing nothing, and there's no play. There's no play, is there? The play of form, I think, requires the splitting and resistance and the other stuff that Satan in his evilness does. Actually is like it's kind of like the moving of the film strip or something, with the light flowing through it, like God being the light, and it's flowing together. It's how it creates. It's the illusion of the forms creating a storyline, and then the difficulty the forms have, where God is always sitting there as the light. In a way, it gives power to the whole thing, and without light, none of it's actually happening. Obviously, in this metaphor, the light and the film strip are the same, but the advantage that you could say God has left within its own play, within its own creation, that it's collaborated with the devil for, is that you can always look and see what's causing the scenes, what the scenes are made of. Because if everything's just made of light, you can always find light. Because the second you see it all as what it is, which is light, it's just made of light or radiance or whatever word you want to call it, just pure God expression. The forms that are creating the storylines that seem to be creating all these different storylines and difficulties and problems aren't seen as what they are. That they aren't seen as that anymore. They are seen as pure light, pure total innocence, pure radiance that could never possibly do anything wrong. And so from that, you can start to feel into experience from that perspective. So say it's just like pain, maybe it's pain in the body of some kind, something relatively simple, I suppose, like it's not too charged, it's like it's just physical. If you can feel into it with the sense on some level that you want this, you don't have to fight and wrestle with it and try and make it something you want, but just having that as a starting point. Just feel into the way in which it's not what you think it is. There's more depth there. If you're not feeling that fact, if you're not recognizing that fact, then just keep feeling. Keep going more subtly with it, without reference points, without anything you've learned about what pain is, or pleasure, or any of the split of duality and all good and bad and everything. Just now in this moment, just feeling exactly into what it is without, and this is the key point, without wanting to change it in any way whatsoever, without trying to transform it through this exercise, without saying, right, if I do this, this will lead to me being free of pain or something. Just approaching it directly as it is and just feeling into it and feeling into it more subtly, the texture of it, the feeling of it, any emotions that are arising with it, just feeling them extremely subtly, extremely directly. And even allow yourself to entertain the idea that there's something here that is enjoying this, that is enjoying this pain. How can that be so? And just feeling subtly into it. See if you can find that within the pain, the subtle sense of enjoyment that you're slightly getting off on it, perhaps. In a strange sense that you might not have recognized. There's been something, let the divide of pleasure and pain start to go fuzzy, start to become vague. Just look into your current experience and see if any of what you've believed about it to be true is true in any way. So, okay, you assume that you're a body. Really look at a body. Look at it with your eyes closed, feel into the texture of it, the sensations of it. Drop the label body. What is it? No idea. That could be, I can give some words to it, like there's a heaviness, there's a density. What does that mean? What is that referring to? What am I referring to when I say heaviness and density, other than direct experience? And what is experience made of? No idea. It's just here. It's like the original. Yeah, it's the original miracle. Like, I don't know. It's here. It's turned on. It's already here. It's already totally switched on. It's already totally happening. And then so I feel into like my body, which is like the first point of reference I have, most people have, because this is the thing we're identified with, isn't it? And I assume I know what this is. I've totally assumed I know what this body is. But let's like close your eyes and feel into it. And it's like this dense, sparkly, sensatory sort of movement of energy. But those are some words onto something which is a total mystery. It's, what do I even mean by heaviness? What do I mean by denseness? What do I mean by energy? When you feel directly into it, and what those words are referring to are only other reference points that you've learned with other words. And so if you simmer all of it down, what can you say about your body? Oh, well, it's experience. And you don't know what experience is. So what's that situation? This would be the same if you're having a dream as well. You start feeling into the dream body. It would be the same. It would feel the same. It would probably feel heavy and dense, but it would still be it'd be made of dream sparkles. It would be made of dream wisps of fantasy, which are made of dream experience. And this is the exact same thing. You start looking at objects around the room that seem to be separated by something called space, but that's not actually the experience at all. So if I look at my hands and then look at the television, it's only an idea mixed with some arbitrary sensations and ownership that I've connected to those things, which separate it from the television. But if I drop all of that, it's a flow of experience, and even the ownership of the hand is part of the flow of experience, which appears within experience. This idea of ownership. I own this hand. Like, this hand is me, that television isn't me. But is that actually true? What do you mean by my hand? What do you mean by mine? What's owning it? What is owning it? Can you find the owner of it? Is it the brain that's owning it? Is it the rest of the body that's owning it? What are those in themselves? How are those known? Or is it experience that's owning it? But then experience is also taking in everything else that's appearing within experience, everything else. And what makes this part owned and that part that seems to be over there not owned? That's a really important question, I feel. Like, where is that dividing line actually? Because we assume immediately that I own this hand. This is obviously mine. I can move it through will, and so it's mine. I can't move that TV, so it's not mine. But does that mean anything? What is will? What is movement? Something that Peter Brown said, which I thought was quite helpful. He's like, play around with the idea. Instead of seeing space everywhere that separates objects, see it as he called it a kind of jello. See it as kind of a substance that the objects are all made of. They're just different manifestations of this jello substance, including this body. It's all more like a block. It's like a block of experience, as opposed to seeing and then air and then an object. It's like a block of experience. And that's what this is. If you feel into things, everything's got the same sparkling aliveness, and it's only ideas. It's an idea that we just strongly associate with, that says, this is mine, this is me, that's not me. But everything is yours because it appears in your experience. So look into this idea of ownership. What is actually owning something? Can you find the thing that is owning anything? Firstly, look in your direct experience, not through any ideas that you've heard about the brain or the body or anything like that, but this whole thing is based around direct experience and not referring to any intellectualizations, anything you've learned, any kind of system of thought, any kind of material science. None of it. We're taking that for the moment as all to be false. The potential that that's all false, and that all that exists is your experience. In the same way that all that exists in a dream is your experience. So if you feel into ownership, what is that? What is ownership? You can't say. The ownership only ever comes from an idea that there's me owning something somewhere in a thought pattern. It's a thought pattern attempting to own another thought pattern. But if you cut through the whole thing and go straight to direct experience, absolutely on the cutting edge of direct experience, not going via interpretations. You look at your experience now. There's nothing that suggests anything owns anything. Everything is just appearing, including the idea of ownership, including the idea that you own this body as something separate from the rest of experience. It is a flow of sentience that has built within it an idea, a program, like a piece of software that says, this is mine, and that is not mine. This is me, and that is not me. But what if all those ideas were deleted? Maybe in some point in your life you've had a seeing, maybe in some point in your life you had a breakthrough or a breakdown, or maybe at some point in your life you've had a very deep meditation or taken a very high dose of psychedelics. Or maybe you haven't had these experiences, but if you have, you'll know that what was seen in that moment was a cutting through of that whole fabrication. The idea of me, my body, my thing versus that thing over there. Like the idea of things, the idea of ownership, the idea of here and there, the idea of self and other just disappearing. And so if those experiences are true, you can start to feel into it now. It's always there. What is true is always true. And so you can find that truth there. It hasn't gone anywhere. You've just believed in some ideas that say it's other. So when I just look really, really closely and then inquire upon any layers that appear to come up, as with the body, looking into the idea of will, the idea of ownership, the idea of me, looking at what all those things are essentially, cooking them down, boiling them down to their absolute essence, all I find is this radiant experience, this sparkling, alive experience with no annotations, no subtext added to it. It doesn't come with subtext. It just is. Subtext is then added later and then believed in by thought patterns, which are also direct experience. You simmer those down. Look at the thought patterns. Look at what the mind is saying that experience is. That's just here. What is that all? Where is that all coming from? What is it all sitting on? What is experience powered from? Has it got a starting place? Has it got somewhere where it finishes? Can you find dividing lines? Has it got a beginning? Where's its beginning? When's the beginning of now, your experience now? Did it ever have a start? Do you remember being born? Do you remember this experience starting? Or has your whole life appeared within experience, which can't be said to exist anywhere inside of time? Does time exist as an actuality, or is that something that another program loaded into the computer of experience, the power supply of experience? Is there anything other than experience anywhere? Is there anything whatsoever that you can't simmer down to experience? And then once you've simmered it down, can you claim, is there any way you can claim that you own that experience and that there's a you that owns it other than experience itself? Or is it just this mystical, unfathomable flow that comes from nowhere, starts nowhere, ends nowhere, can't be said to be anywhere within the realms of time and space, causation? How is this happening? I mean, really, don't refer to some science you've learned. Don't refer to some books you've read. Whether it's about souls or science, that needs to be dropped all this moment. Near-death experiences, all of it. Any ideas about reality that have been presented to you need to be dropped right now. Just so you can look, then you can look directly. If you're hanging on to an idea of any kind that you've learnt, you are not looking directly. You are looking through the lens of that idea. That idea needs to be dropped for you to look right now. honestly, with humility and openness and willingness to see what's actually here, if you look honestly and openly, then the answer will be there, but it won't be something that's in words. It won't be something that you can tell everyone about or brag about, because it's not yours. It's older than what you think of as you. It's ancient. It goes beyond time itself. What you think of as you is a bunch of patterns that you have inherited in this life through your primal, amazing, radiant, ecstatic experience fact that you are. You have picked up a bunch of patterns of ideas and knowledge within this experience you call human life, and you have put all of your power, your magnificence, your pure, unfiltered power into that and taken that to be true. This is the unknotting of that, because you've just caught yourself up within your own knots. You never left home. You never left experience. Experience is a word, and that word can't capture it. It can't capture what experience actually is. It's this ineffable, miraculous sentience that is to thank for all life, all manifestation. Without it, nothing exists. You, as you've taken yourself to be, are part of the flow of that. But you, as you actually are the creator of the flow. You are upstream. You are always upstream from what you've taken yourself to be. And that's your main advantage here. You are the sun ray, but also the sun. So you can go upstream and see what's actually happening here. So if you go directly to this amazing, miraculous fact of experiencing right now, the thingless thing that allows anything to exist, that allows anything to seem to be happening at all, just be with that, because you can't not be. The only way you can not be with it is to believe in an interpretation of it, and then focus in on that interpretation, and then take that to be true. But if you are with the direct experience and ignore interpretations, you are knowing yourself as what this is. And that can't be put in words. You can call it reality, you can call it God, you can call it anything, but really all words at the end need to be dropped, because there's not one human being that can put a word onto what this is. The best I can do is miraculous sentience, inexplicable sentience, inexplicable aware intelligence that does not require any explanation. And it is always free. It is always free of anything that it appears to be tangled in downstream. It is always free of it. It always transcends it. And that's the advantage of this whole thing. So feel directly into that. Look at your experience. Question everything. Question every layer that comes up. Look at what you think to be objects. And then watch how your mind will tell you about it. It will tell you about causation. It will tell you about time and space. It will tell you about how long it takes light to get to your eyes. Drop all of it. Drop every single bit of it. If it's a dream, there is no time. If it's a dream, there's no amount of time between anything hitting your eyes and it being over there, because there are no eyes. There's only direct experience. Eyes are another experience that you can't even... They're just a feeling. They don't exist as anything other than a feeling, which is also direct experience. Playing with the idea that this is a dream to start with is quite helpful, I think, because it loosens up the mind. Open up to the possibility that this is just a dream. This is another level of dream, a much more believable dream perhaps than your nighttime dreams. Open up to that possibility and then investigate. What if everything is just here in the instant as an inexplicable, miraculous manifestation of God dreaming? How much time is there between God dreaming something and it arising? It's instant. There's no time. It's beyond time. Time occurs after the fact, once space is believed in. So, hear a sound. Don't call it sound, or don't call it hearing. What is it? Don't assume that it's an object causing sound. What is it? If it's none of those things, what is it? It's more flow of experience. Don't assume for 1 second that there's anything outside of yourself. Feel into the chair that you're sitting on, and then drop the label chair. What is it? Your mind might say, well, it's some soft, cushiony feeling that I feel weight upon. Drop those labels, or look into those labels. Like, what do I mean by those labels? What is that referring to? What do I mean by soft? What do I mean by cushiony? What do I mean by weight? Where is weight other than experience? How much does experience weigh? How much does softness feel soft? Is there an actual thing called softness outside of experience? Is there an actual thing called weight outside of experience? Does light come from somewhere? Look at the apparent objects around you. Does light come from somewhere and reflect off them and bounce into your eyes? Or is there just light? Look at what you think to be an object. How much does it weigh when you look at it? How does it feel when you look at it? Or is it just light radiating, dancing, sparkles, texture? You've assumed when you look at something that it's there. Look at a chair and you assume it's this heavy object I can pick up and weigh. But how much does the direct experience of the vision of chair weigh? It doesn't weigh anything. You can do this with absolutely everything. You can do this with your thoughts. You can do this with your feelings. Where does a thought come from? Can you find where it comes from? Can you find exactly where it comes from in your direct experience? Exactly where it arises from? Is it within a head? Or is it just within open experience that doesn't have boundaries? Is it enclosed? Is it claustrophobic when a thought arises? Or is it just within infinity, within no space, within total boundlessness? What is it made of? What is a thought made of when you look at it directly? This is the key. The key looking, I think, to go beyond what the interpretations are saying, because we constantly go to them as if they're true. But when you look at thought, look at it directly. Repeat any maybe sentence that you want to repeat in your mind, or just catch a thought like a wild, rare creature or fish or something. Catch it in your experience and look at it. Don't assume that it's true. And feel how it feels. What is its texture? Where is it appearing? Is it appearing somewhere other than the television across the room, than the sensation of your legs on the chair? of the slight high-pitched sound, like maybe a touch of ringing in your ears? Is it appearing somewhere other than there? And where exactly is that then, if it's other than those places? Can you locate that? And where is all that appearing? Is it appearing outside of experience? Does experience start here and end somewhere over there, and then my thoughts are here and objects are there? Or is everything just appearing within this direct experience, which you can't find a starting place for? Can't find a temporal start or end to. What does this mean about thoughts? Are they mine? They're as much yours as the trees outside, as the light of the sun. You've just taken them to be something that is extremely localized and owned it. But if there's no localization to anything and there's no ownership of anything, then how personal are these thoughts? Are they just like clouds in the sky? Do they refer to anything true? If all that is true is this direct experience that has no personal agenda, personal focus point, there's no worries, no problems, that just looks at every single experience as delicious and as enticing as the previous one and as the next one. Enjoys the taste of absolutely every single arising in its experience, like a line of delicious meals that it just can't get enough of. It's just enjoying the banquet of experience, and the thoughts are just part of that, and it neither likes them or dislikes them. It embraces them. It embraces everything. You've got to see how this is true in your own experience, because ideas will never get you there. They may have some temporary relief, but they will never bring to you what you were looking for. You will just find ideas within ideas, and that's more of the same. That's more of what most people have been doing their whole lives. But when you actually, this is about not improving ideas, not getting to better ideas. This is about seeing what ideas are, seeing what anything is, seeing how anything exists at all, and then living the implications of that. Not because it gets you somewhere, not because it's better, but because you are just helplessly attracted to truth. Something is telling you that it's not what you've believed it to be. And that doesn't mean you're in the Matrix. It doesn't mean you're in a computer simulation. That doesn't mean you're in a dream. You can't actually say what it is. It's beyond all of that. Those are human ideas. You're not trapped in something. It's far more grand than that, far more majestic than that. It is perfect, unfathomable, unbelievable, miraculous reality that has appeared out of nothingness by itself and just is without cause. Everything exists within that, and there is no good or bad, right or wrong, other than the reference points we have created within that are all arbitrary. Just look for yourself. Look as directly as you can without veering off into any interpretation, anything you've learnt. Just look absolutely directly on the cutting edge of your direct experience, as if this was the first moment of your life, as if you're a baby that's just been born and you have no clue of what's going on. No clue. Imagine everything you've learned in your life has been totally false. and then look. Imagine you've been knocked over the head. You've forgotten everything you've ever learned, and then look. Just be with it as directly as you can. Feel into it all. Don't let assumptions tell you what it is. Don't let interpretations tell you what it is. Stay with that. Keep coming back to it. That is always there. It is like the father guru, the most loving, compassionate, masterful, funny, open, welcoming presence that you can imagine is your very own experience, is the very thing that is having your experience now. It is always there for you. And you can always come back to it, no matter where you are, no matter what's happened whatsoever. It's always there to be referred to. That is your reference point. It isn't a point. It doesn't exist in time or space, and it isn't temporal. It's got no backstory, but it is what you want to create as your new reference point, as opposed to going to the mind, the learnt knowledge, the interpretations, the beliefs as a reference point. Strengthen that muscle, strengthen that habit, create a new habit of making this, as it is, your direct experience, your reference point. Every time you find yourself lost in interpretation, believing in outside objects and things and problems and worries, come back to the referenceless reference point of direct experience. Feel into any of the sensations of any of the happenings if you need to. And every time you do that, the muscle is strengthened. It's a habit. There's nothing wrong with going into interpretations. That's kind of like the extending of the muscle before you tense it when you lift a weight. It's just a creating and a ripping of the muscle. Every time you go to interpretations and then back again, you're strengthening that muscle. And eventually you won't need to come back to interpretations at all. You won't feel the need to. It will automatically be a reference point of direct experience, which is always the case anyway, so that's your main advantage. You just won't feel the need to veer off into interpretations because they seem to have no value at all. They seem to have no reality to them, more importantly. They exist as expressions of this, but they don't have any reality in and of themselves. How much can an interpretation tell you about anything? How can it think for itself, an interpretation? Can an interpretation see you? Or can only you see it? You give it life, so you can take its life away.